Who's going to be that person? Is it going to be mom, dad, siblings to make that decision for you? Death is not reserved for the dying or the elderly. It happens at any time. So whether, you're 20 or you're 80, it can happen.
So what happens to your money and assets after you die?
After you die.
Welcome back to the channel. My name is JC Rodriguez. If you had any questions about what estate planning is, today I brought on an expert, Laurore. She's going to share her insights as a real estate planning attorney. And I'm just going to ask the questions that we all have that we're probably too afraid to ask. Stay watching till the end.
My name is Laurore Jean-Pierre, so I'm the managing attorney at JP Law & Wealth Advisors. Our firm specializes in estate planning, and estate planning itself, when people hear about it, they don't quite understand what it is. Like, okay, it sounds fancy, but it really is making sure that you have your affairs in order, so when you do pass away, it's as smooth as possible under the circumstances. All we do every day is trust, estate planning, power of attorneys and such, and also when the unfortunate part happens, probate, for those who didn't plan properly. So that's what our firm kind of does, and that's what we're kind of passionate about, to educate people about the many different documents and steps of estate planning.
Okay, when people hear estate planning, first thing that comes to mind is like, oh, real estate, like houses, planning.
Yeah.
But break it down, like, what is estate planning?
Yeah, so estate planning could be something as simple as making sure you have beneficiaries on your account to as complex as having this trust. And really, estate planning is making sure you have your legal affairs and financial affairs set up, that when life happens, death, right? We can't avoid it, that you have things in order. So estate planning is really planning for the unfortunate moment, making sure you have things in order that, again, whether it's simple as beneficiary on an account or making it more complex as having a trust and setting up things properly.
So what happens to your money and assets after you die?
After you die. And also while you're alive, what happens if you're incapacitated? What happens if you're sick? Who gets to make the decisions for you? Who gets to control your affairs? So it's not just, when you die, but when life happens, when you're sick.
For sure.
When you're, unfortunately in a life situation, what do you want to happen?
When should people start thinking about estate planning? Like, I'm 24 years old. Is that something that I should be considering now?
If you're 18 or over, you should have an estate plan. And again, it's not about, having a trust, but as you are 24 years old now, if something were to happen to you, your parents no longer have a say about what can happen to you because you're not a child anymore, right? So when you go to college, for example, people that go away to college, if they're sick in the hospital and their mom is the typical person to make the decision for them, their mom have to have a healthcare surrogate or power of attorney to make that decision for them legally, because they're no longer a minor where the parent and the guardian kind of make that decision. So if you're 18 or over, it's about having someone in place that you trust and can rely on to say, okay, something happens to me, here's a person to call that can make that decision for me.
Okay, so what would be the first steps like a college grad would take when it comes to estate planning?
Yeah, so making sure you have beneficiaries on account, whether it's a small checking college account or not, make sure you have someone listed as beneficiary, but also listing someone's power of attorney and a healthcare surrogate. And it could be your parents, right? Because you're away now, if something were to happen to you and your mom is trying to call the bank on your behalf, they can't do so if they're not on the account. So making sure you have someone listed as power of attorney or also as a healthcare surrogate. If something's happened to you and you're at the hospital and you can't make decisions for you, who do you want to make that decision for, right? For you on your behalf. And as extreme as it can be, even as a living will, if you're in a coma, right, what do you want to happen? So thinking about, okay, who's going to be that person? Is it going to be mom, dad, siblings? Who you think is going to be willing and also emotionally responsible to make that decision for you?
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I want to be more proactive about these things, where would I go to put that in writing or to make it official? Those decisions?
Get an estate planning attorney, right? Especially someone that specializes in estate planning, because not all attorneys are created equal. I don't do criminal law. Like if you came to me as an estate planning attorney for a criminal charge, you'll probably go to jail because I don't handle criminal matters. But you find an attorney that specializes in estate planning in your state or in your area that can properly guide you and say, okay, you don't need assets, right? Nothing to do with assets or how much money you have, but let's get something in writing so you have those people make the decisions for you and can enforce it legally.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much would that cost on average, or how did they charge? Like by time?
It depends, by time, and also how complicated it is for a college student. Typically that wouldn't cost too much. Like for our firm, we typically have college special where you get your last will and testament, power of attorney, healthcare all together for like $1,000. Because again, you're 18-year-old. You don't have much assets to worry about. Like we're not gonna charge you a $5,000 or $10,000 plan because it doesn't make any sense, but we still want you to have something when life happens. Your parents or whoever you name can make the decisions for you. Yeah.
I'm thinking about this a lot for college grads who just started their first full-time job. They're now earning a real salary. Maybe they finally built up their full emergency fund. Maybe they just got married too. Now there's
how do we scream for that?
Now there's a beneficiary there as well.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So you talk about like looking up a estate planning attorney. Where's the best place a college grad can go to find a reliable attorney in that way?
Yeah, Google is always great, right? But also the Florida bar. So Florida, like in many other states, they have their bar association where you can go online and look up the attorneys for different specificity, like, right, for example, criminal, civil, and they'll have a list of attorneys that are barred. And you could see, you know, if they have been disciplined for anything, and it's a reliable source to say, okay, this is the Florida bar. Those are the people that control our licenses to practice law. So you can see, okay, these are the people that are qualified to practice in that state and in my area to reach out to.
Okay, there's a term you threw around that I've heard, but I don't have quite an understanding of. Honestly, don't know what the heck it is. What is a trust?
What is a trust? Well, the trust itself is a legal document. Let's start there, right? It's not something that's an account or anything like that. To even have an account, when you hear a trust fund baby, you have to first have done the legal part, which is the trust document. And it could be as simple as a 20-pager or a 100-page. And really what it does, a trust, is establishes what you want to happen upon your incapacity and also upon your passing. So essentially laying out who you want to handle your affairs, who you want the beneficiaries to be, and what are the conditions you want to for those beneficiaries to inherit your assets, to even to the extent of what you want to happen upon your passing as far as, you know, cremation and things of that nature. So it's an all-comprehensive document that talks about things while you're alive and also upon your passing. So itself is a legal document. Once you have that legal document, then you set up the accounts, then you buy the property that goes into the trust. But the trust itself is a legal document that you set up with an attorney to kind of handle your affairs for you while you're alive and upon your passing.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the other outside aspects of a trust?
So the trust itself is kind of like an extension of yourself. There are different kinds of trusts. Let me kind of have that disclaimer, right? But for the sake of our conversation, let's say revocable living trust. That's the most popular one, meaning that it's revocable and you could change it as long as you want to, as long as you're alive. So because it's a distinction of yourself, anything that you, JC, can own, a trust can own. If you want to buy a car in the name of the trust, you can. I don't recommend it. But to say anything that you yourself can own in your name, a trust can also do. You can open up a brokerage account, so an investment account. It can go ahead and buy a property. It can be a manager in a business. It can itself be the owner of a business. So the trust itself is a really extension of yourself as a human being, to kind of handle anything that you yourself could have handled in your individual name, but now in the capacity of a trust.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how is a trust fund baby born?
How are they created? So a trust fund baby, that term, right? Essentially their parents created a trust for them. And sometimes it typically goes with like the trust at some point own a life insurance, for example. And now that trust is the owner of the life insurance policy. So that child now has a trust that has certain terms and conditions and when they can actually inherit the money. But a trust fund baby, meaning, okay, there's a trust and it has funds and assets that are being controlled on your behalf by a trustee, but you're the beneficiary of that trust. So you inherit all of those assets and whatever else the trust has, but there's someone typically managing the trust on your behalf. So you're a trust fund baby because, you know, a lot of times, especially if it's a life insurance policy, it's a lot of money in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't even have to work, right? Sometimes the parents already set up the trust to say, okay, per month you get a $5,000 allowance. Hence, every month now the trustee gives you $5,000 allowance. Or if it says, okay, these funds are for you to pay for college. You as the trust fund baby, the beneficiary, college is already paid for because your parents or whoever has set up that legal document and also have put those assets in the trust. So where the trust is managing everything. So now you inherit it, you kind of like just sit back and watch things happen for you because someone took that initial step to set it up properly.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You know, a lot of people think it's like, oh, you just open up an account. It's like, no, you have to do the legal part first, which is the legal document. And then we fund the trust by adding assets in the name of the trust. And then the beneficiaries can now enjoy the benefits of the trust.
Love it. Perfect. All right. What are the perks of doing estate planning early on in your 20s?
In your 20s. Because estate planning is more so a living, breathing document. As life happens, you change it, right? And 2020 has taught us a big major thing, right? Death is not reserved for the dying or the elderly. It happens at any time. So whether, you know, you're 20 or you're 80, it can happen. So you kind of plan ahead of time, and it's not about assets, but if something were to happen and you're sick and you can decide for yourself, who can make that decision? So the earlier you have that on and not have to wait for something to happen and then have to go to court and get an attorney and do all of that, is the better it is, right?
Gotcha.
So it's not about assets. I will keep preaching that you could have $1 or $1 million. It's about making a plan and making sure someone of your choosing is the one making decisions for you.
Yeah, to like not hand off that responsibility to whatever powers.
Exactly, complete stranger. You know, we hear the stories all the time about the celebrities that are unfortunately had to be assigned a conservator or a guardian. And that's because they didn't themselves choose that person by doing an estate plan. And they got into a situation where they're sick, mentally incapacitated, and now they're being assigned someone they didn't choose, someone probably who don't have their best interests at heart, but now they're being assigned someone to kind of handle their affairs for them, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There we go. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you for enlightening us.
I hope that wasn't too many legal jargons, but I try to keep it simple.
No, dude, you kept it simple for sure. If you guys want more practical tips like this when it comes to adulting and navigating these new financial topics in your 20s, please hit the subscribe button. We're going to interview more people just like Laurore who have expertise in these things and know way more than I do because I'm learning right along with you guys. Catch you later. Peace.